Hello and welcome back to the Fantasy Playmakers. What is up, guys? In this video, I'm going to be going through my start sits at the quarterback position, so breaking down every single Week 18 matchup and listing every starting quarterback as either a start or a sit, so do I trust them in my lineups. There are going to be timestamps down below in the description, so if you guys just want to jump around to your specific quarterbacks, that is totally fine. But let's get it started with the Cowboys Eagles matchup. And I'm going to list both of these QBs as starts. Dak is going to slide in probably as like a mid to back end QB1 in a fairly tough matchup against the Eagles. And then Jalen Hurts really has established himself as a high end QB1 on a week to week basis. In the next game, we have the Packers taking on the Lions. Right now, I'm just operating as if Aaron Rodgers is going to start and play. If he does play, he would be a start. If he is out, I'm not trying to mess around with Jordan Love. For the Lions, whether it's Jared Goff or Tim Boyle, just going to be avoiding both of those players. Then we've got the Colts taking on the Jaguars, and both of these quarterbacks are going to be sits for me. Carson Wentz can just get phased out of games by Jonathan Taylor. I don't know if he's going to have that volume here in Week 18. And for the Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence has just not been it this year, so he is most definitely a sit. Then we've got another rough game at the quarterback position between the Washington football team and the Giants. Taylor Heineke's a sit, and then for the Giants, Jake Fromm is obviously a sit. Daniel Jones, done for the year. Apparently Mike Glennon got hurt in that game, so he's done. Now we're on to Jake Fromm. Still just no trust there for the Giants quarterback. Then we have the Bears taking on the Vikings. For the Bears, whether it's Andy Dalton, Justin Fields, or Nick Foles, just going to be avoiding that quarterback position as a whole. For the Vikings, I do think you can feel confident starting Kirk Cousins as like a very back-end quarterback one play. Moving on to the Panthers-Bucs matchup. For the Panthers, no trust here with Sam Darnold. He is definitely going to be a sit. For the Buccaneers, even without AB and Godwin, I still think you can fire up Tom Brady as like a mid-tier quarterback one option. Speaking of Tom Brady, we've got his former team, the Patriots, taking on the Dolphins, and I'm going to be sitting both of these quarterbacks. Both guys have showed flashes this year, just not a ton of consistency and not really a high ceiling for Mac Jones or Tua, so both of those quarterbacks are going to be sits. Then we've got the Saints taking on the Falcons. For the Saints, I'm going to be starting Taysom Hill for that rushing upside. He's been a pretty solid, fantasy producer ever since he has taken over the starting role. On the other side with the Falcons, Matt Ryan is just not getting it done. He doesn't have the weapons around him, and it has just been rough for that Falcons offense. So Matt Ryan is definitely a sit. We've got two more sits in this Titans-Texans matchup. Ryan Tannehill, had a decent performance last week just in terms of real-life NFL. Just didn't get the volume because they were dominant on the ground. I feel like this could be a similar game script here against the Texans. So Tannehill is going to be a sit. And then Davis Mills, went on a decent run, really just not a ton of consistency. And overall, he just doesn't have the weapons and has a tough matchup this week facing off against the Titans. We've got a rivalry up next here between the Steelers and the Ravens. For the Steelers, Big Ben is definitely unplayable. I've never seen someone throw so many passes for as few yards as he did on Monday night. It's really just hard to watch. For the Ravens, I'd honestly be starting Lamar Jackson or Tyler Huntley, whoever would get the start. If Lamar Jackson plays, he'd probably be more of like a mid to back end QB1. If it's Huntley, he's definitely more on just that like back end, high end QB2 range. Obviously, we just know Lamar Jackson is the better overall player. The next game is going to be between the Jets and the Bills. For the Jets, sitting Zach Wilson actually looked pretty solid against the Buccaneers, but a tough matchup here, and he hasn't shown any consistency all season long. For the Bills, you're firing up Josh Allen as a high-end QB1, just like you've done every single week this season. That leads us into the Bengals taking on the Browns. Pretty clear here for both teams. You're firing up Joe Burrow. The man is on fire. He's thrown for almost 1,000 passing yards the last 2 weeks, 8 passing touchdowns. Just continue to ride the hot hand here with Joe Burrow. On the other side, Baker Mayfield would not be playing. It really doesn't make a difference. It looks like he's going to get surgery on that shoulder. You'd be sitting him either way, and you're definitely sitting his backup, Case Keenum. This next matchup between the Chargers and the Raiders is actually pretty important in terms of like standings and the final finishes for these teams. For the Chargers, Justin Herbert, locked in start, mid-tier QB1 every single week for the Raiders. I just don't think you can trust Derek Carr. I do expect him to get Darren Waller back this week, but still, just not enough consistency out of Carr. That leads us into the 49ers taking on the Rams, another very important matchup. For the 49ers, if Trey Lance is starting, I think he's a solid start this week. On the Rams side, even though Matthew Stafford has really struggled as of late, I still think you can plug him in as like a back-end quarterback one play. Chiefs Broncos is going to be up next, and for the Chiefs, pretty easy here. You fire up Patrick Mahomes as a high-end quarterback one. For the Broncos, pretty easy also. You're sitting, whether it's Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater, you don't trust either of them. Both of those guys are going to be sits. And then the final game I'm going to talk about, the Seahawks are traveling to Arizona to take on the Cardinals. For the Seahawks, Russell Wilson coming off of a big-time performance after, a pretty rough stretch coming back from that injury. I am listing him as a start, but it's definitely more of like a back-end quarterback one, high-end QB2 play. This is still a pretty tough Cardinals defense, and I'm not totally bought into that Seahawks offense after just one really solid week. For the Cardinals, you fire up Kyler Murray as like a high to mid-end quarterback one play, and that is going to wrap it up for every single Week 18 matchup. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And if you do have your championships this week, good luck. Go bring home that number one spot. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.